Welcome to The Critique. We are looking at a really blistering video transcript today, one that goes after Candace Owens for her claims about a Daily Wire parody and some of her theories on the Iranian protests.
Yeah, and there's a lot to unpack here. The host is clearly coming from a place of, well, immense frustration.
You can say that again. So the core of it seems to be this idea that Candace Owens, our CO, is being completely irrational. But the way it's presented is, it's just a constant barrage of terms like lunatic, insane, dingbat.
Don't forget vile evil witch.
Right. And then there's that whole list of invented names like Ding Dong Wang Chen Ni Ogre Boy Yuga.
Yeah, that one. It's a lot. And while the hostility is clear, I think it raises a big question about the strategy, The goal is to prove her arguments are faulty, but does this approach actually get you there?
And that's our first point, isn't it?
It is. The relentless use of inflammatory and dismissive language detracts significantly from the material's analytical weight and ultimately undermines the credibility of the primary arguments.
So the weakness is that by just swapping out real analysis for insults, you risk pushing away anyone who isn't already 100% on board.
Exactly. It just kills any sense of objectivity. And the really crucial part is that the actual substantive critique of her bad logic, which is there, it just gets totally drowned out by all the name-calling.
But hold on. If you take out all that fiery energy, doesn't it just become like a dry academic paper? That passion is what hooks people in the first place, right?
That is a critical question. And it gets to the difference between, say, performance and persuasion. The frustration is the engine, sure, but the analysis has to be the chassis.
Okay.
So the suggestion isn't to kill the energy, it's to shift it, move it away from attacking the person and channel it into surgically deconstructing the specific flaws in her logic and her evidence.
So you're replacing the emotional jab with a precise analytical one.
Precisely. It makes the argument much harder to dismiss, even for her biggest fan. Look, the audience already knows she's a controversial figure. They don't need to be told she's a lunatic again.
They need to be shown why she's wrong.
Yes, they need an airtight demonstration of the logical failure.
So give me a concrete example of that. How do you do it?
Okay, so instead of just calling her insane for claiming the Daily Wire video is a laced threat, you focus entirely on why her interpretation of the evidence is just wrong, why it fails any standard test of proportionality.
So you use her own points against her. She focuses on the colored letters for watched and followed, or the plane blowing up.
And you use those exact details, not as proof she's crazy, but as proof she's misinterpreting things. So you replace a line like, she's quite thick, isn't she? She's a lunatic, with a more structured breakdown.
Right.
You could say something like, okay, the strongest counterargument to CO's fear comes from analyzing the DW video's intent. Does the text, your personal business is our business, actually function as a legally actionable threat, or is it just satire mocking her previous claims about flight times?
And by focusing on intent, which is clearly parody,
it gives you a much, much more robust critique than just yelling conspiracy theorist. That shift in language from her mental state to her interpretation of evidence, that's everything. It instantly elevates the whole thing.
It tells the listener, I'm not just mad at her. I'm here to show you precisely where her argument breaks down, using her own evidence.
Exactly. And the second the host just leans on personal attacks, they give the opponent an easy way out. They don't have to defend their bad logic anymore.
They just point at the name-calling and say the whole thing is biased.
And it is. In this media climate, intellectual rigor is a far more devastating weapon than just, emotional dismissal.
I can see that. And this reliance on emotion, on performance, it creates a structural issue too. All these tangents just keep interrupting the actual analysis. You see it when the host literally pauses to say, I've been on a tear today, I think, with all of my name calling, or when they spend all this time on inventing operation names like Operation Dingbat Candace.
And it's happening right as they're trying to introduce something important, like her talking about the CIA's Project Looking Glass.
Yeah, which leads right into our second major point about the pacing and structure, doesn't it?
It does. The critique's flow is significantly hampered by frequent, self-referential tangents and name-calling segments, which obscure the core evidence and delay the impact of the analysis.
So the weakness is that the argument just feels meandering?
Completely meandering. You're losing all your momentum because key context, like the actual transcript of the DW parody commercial, which you absolutely need to understand her reaction, It either comes way too late or it's broken up into little pieces.
It's a priority issue then. The host gets excited about their own clever names and pulls the listener away from the very evidence they need to make their point.
Right. And when you're talking about complex stuff like conspiracy theories, your audience needs an anchor. They need the evidence right away. If I have to wait 5 minutes to find out what the commercial even said, then the critique of her reaction has no foundation.
So what's the fix?
It's actually pretty simple, but it's vital. Restructure it to follow a strict, linear, evidence-first approach. You state CO's claim, then you immediately provide the source material that proves your point, and only then do you deliver the critique.
And all those personal tangents about their feelings or their creative naming exercises?
You compress them or just cut them. The priority has to be the listener's immediate understanding of the error, not the host's performance art.
Okay, so let's get specific. With the DW video, you'd introduce the transcript right after mentioning her veiled threats claim.
Immediately. Don't make the audience wait. You analyze the voiceover, the flaming plane. You do all that before you start talking about your own theories on her operation name.
And that whole list of invented names, the ding-dong Wong thing?
That's an editorial choice, and it should be cut way down. Instead, use that valuable time to give real, factual context about her previous claims, like the whole Egyptian planes incident.
Ah, I see. So you show the listener why the mockery is justified by laying out her track record of bizarre claims first.
Exactly. The justification has to come before the insult. It strengthens the whole foundation of the mockery. It's all about efficiency and building that momentum.
And when the material actually does that, when it focuses on her specific claims, like the Iranian protests being a hoax, it's really sharp.
It is. That's the momentum we need to see throughout. But there is one place where the host's own speculation goes a little too far.
You're talking about the part where they try to explain her motives?
I am. The piece makes a strong case for calling out her hypocrisy, demanding proof about the Iran protest. But then when they get to her obsession with Egyptian planes, it makes this huge, unsupported leap.
The claim that she is paid by Islamists because Egypt is predominantly Islamic and while she is obsessed with Egyptian planes and hates Israel.
That one. That is an extreme claim to just drop into an otherwise evidence-based piece. It's a huge rhetorical danger. The host is so good at pointing out CO's own flawed conspiratorial thinking.
But then they turn around and use an equally unsubstantiated conspiracy to explain it.
Which is a massive strategic error. You can't fight fire with fire here, not if your goal is to be the more credible voice.
Which brings us to the third core critique.
Right. To elevate the material from polemic to a robust critique, the host must replace speculative and conspiratorial accusations with clearly articulated, contextually supported counterarguments regarding CO's motivations.
And the weakness is it's a huge logical leap.
It's a huge leap, and it doesn't actually help the argument. That kind of claim is so easy for a skeptic to dismiss, and it just brings in these tangential, unprovable elements that weaken the entire analysis. It shifts from analyzing evidence to peddling a financial conspiracy.
So why is it so dangerous, really, to fight a conspiracy theorist with a counter-conspiracy?
Because the moment you do that, you're playing in the exact same rhetorical sandbox as the person you're critiquing. You hand them the perfect comeback.
They can just say, well, the host is a conspiracy theorist, too.
And they'd have a point. The goal is to show you're better than that, and you lose that high ground by mirroring their worst tactics. So, the suggestion is to stick to what you can prove. Focus the critique on established political context and media strategy.
So things like her reliance on generating outrage or staying relevant through contrarianism?
Exactly. Things we can actually observe and prove. Those explain her behavior far better than some secret paycheck.
So let's apply that to the Egyptian plane thing. Instead of the paid by Islamists idea.
You connect that obsession directly to the context that's already in the script. Her pattern of promoting insane theories that are going to get Erica and her family and friends significantly hurt.
That connects her specific paranoia to a real-world negative impact. That's a much stronger argument.
It's a verifiable argument. And building on that, you argue that the Daily Wire video is really just mocking her delusional reality. The host even hints at this, and it's the true significance of the satire.
So you lean into that.
Yes, bolster that connection. Show how the plane thing fits into her documented history of promoting other fringe concepts like Project Looking Glass or Operation Mocking Pastor.
Right. These are things she's actually promoted.
And by showing that established pattern, you demonstrate to the listener that the DW satire is earned. You connect it directly to her track record. That keeps the whole thing intellectual, relevant, and verifiable, instead of just speculative.
The goal isn't to diagnose her bank account. It's to analyze her political strategy.
Which is a much more powerful and provable thesis.
Okay, this has been really targeted. I think overall, the passion and the host's grasp of the material is undeniable, but the delivery just needs to be sharpened to match that rigor.
I agree completely.
So if we step back and boil it all down, what are the 3 big strategic shifts we're recommending here?
First, restructure the whole thing to prioritize evidence. State the claim, give the proof immediately, and cut the tangents. That will tighten the structure and build momentum.
Got it. Evidence first.
Second, swap out the generalized insults for surgical, verifiable analysis of her flawed logic. And third, ground all your counterarguments in actual political and media context. Her strategy, not in unsubstantiated speculation.
That's a great summary. We recognize that powerful emotional engagement, the frustration is real, and it should absolutely remain the fuel.
Of course. But to really maximize the impact, that high-octane energy needs to be channeled into intellectual rigor. Right now, it's a performance-driven. With these refinements, it can become a robust, credible analysis that is very, very difficult to dismiss.
We're genuinely excited to see how you implement these suggestions.
We really are. Please apply these changes to the structure, the tone, and the evidence, and submit the revised material back. We would be delighted to offer another round of feedback on the updated version. Until then, keep challenging yourselves and keep creating.